Okay. So so far we have covered, right, what is the test data, what is test case, what is test summary, right, what is test scenario is about, what we can define in the test plan, right. So these all are things related with the QA documentation part, right. So whatever we have is a part of QA documentation. We will discussed over here, like how to create the test plan, what is the main objective of test plan, what are the information we normally put under the test plan. Then we discuss about what is test scenario, how we can define the test scenario, right. Then what is test case, right, and how we can write the test case, what are the important parts of the test cases, right. Then we discuss about the test data, right, what is the importance of our test data, like the valid test data, invalid test data, how we can utilize that in our test cases, right, and when it is getting important, like when we execute the test case, we require to have a test data to be passed. So once we pass the test data, we will get the result according to our test data, right. Then we also understand how to create the test summary report, right, the detailed test summary report for the management or QA lead once we finish our testing, right. So once we done with the testing, we need to update the team with the list of this information, right, what project we have done testing, what is the test objectives, what is the duration of testing. Then we need to also give the test case summary, right, how many test case we have executed, how many of them are passed, failed, skipped, what is the pass percentage, what is the fail percentage, right. Then defect information, so whatever the test case has failed, then we should raise the bug for them, right, we should raise the defect for them. Then again we can also give the information about the defect, what is the status of the defect, and what are the availability of the priority and the severity of that defect, right. So now, as of now, everything is clear, right, Ali?
Yeah, everything is clear as of now.
Okay, so now let's we focus on the main part for which the QA person are focused, right? The defect, the bug, the error, right? So this is our prime responsibility to identify the defects in the software, bugs in the software, right? Because we do as a part of quality check, we try to identify if something is missing in the software, if something goes wrong in the software, then we need to report to the developer, to the project manager, or to the respective person, right. So before that, it is very much important to understand what is defect, what is bug, right. So let's we go and on the next topics, which described as what is error, defect, bug, and failure. You see, so they have the different terminology, I will just say, right. But if you read the first four lines, it will be clear, right, it will be clear to you. So see, if you make a, like, let's suppose the developer is developing something, right, they are developing some code, and they made some mistake in their code, right. So that code, that mistakes will normally is error. You got my point. The developer making a code, and whatever the mistakes they found, that is we can consider as an error. Now that error found by the tester during the testing, you got my point, that error found by tester during their testing, so it will become defect. This is the defect in the software, right. Initially it was error in the software by the developer, now the same error identified by the tester during a testing, so it will become defect. This is just a terminology, no need to get confused. You can also call it defect, you can also call it bug, that's fine, right. You can call defect, bug, that then both are the same thing, but there is minor difference. So I want to clear that difference to you. Now tester raise the defect, right, and developer has the argument with the tester, okay, this is not the defect, this is the functionality, and this is how we need to design the system as per the requirement, right. So you cannot consider that as a defect, right. So we have some argument, but when developer accept that defect, right, so it will become a bug in the software. You got my point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So error, mistakes, defect, bug, right? So these are interrelated with the respective the stakeholder we deal with, right? So if so normally in our scenario we can call it defect or we can call it bug. That's fine. We raise a bug, we raise a defect. That's fine, right? Now what is failure? Suppose we have many defects in our build, right? So whatever the final version of the application we have developed for the to do the testing or to do the UAT or to the production hosting, right? So if that build will have many bugs, it is not matching up with the requirement, right? Then at the end of the day we can count as a failure of our team. Okay, because we are not meeting the requirement of the customer, we are not giving them what they have expected from us, so that will become the failure. You got my point? So the build does not meet the requirements, then it is a failure of ours. Got my point?
Yeah.
Defect and bug both are the same thing, we can use as a tester, defect and bug. Okay, now what is defect and bug? Then we need to understood what is a defect life cycle, right? Or we can also call what is a bug life cycle. This is one of the interview questions they can ask, bug life cycle, right? Or you can also get defect life cycle, means how the defect is going to be raised, right? How it's going to be tackled by the developer, how it's going to be retested by the tester, right? So normally they ask, okay, so how you normally raise the bug and how normally you put the defect and all those things, right? So first we understand the defect life cycle, right? From where it is get origin and when it is get end, right? So this is called life cycle, from starting to end. Okay, so now
Yeah.
suppose, yeah, now suppose here we have tester, right? We have tester, right? So we can just consider over here we have Ali, right, as a tester, and over here we have developer, right? We have developer, and we can count myself as a developer, right? So suppose I create something, right? I create something, right? I make the product final version. I make the build, right? This is called build. I make the build. I just make the build, right? And I just give, okay, this is my version one, and you give the tester to test. See, this is how the real scenario work in the in the world of the software development, right? So developer give that build to the tester, and what information they will give the application detail. Like if it is a web based, then it is a URL. If it is a window based, then it will be the exe file, right? And mobile, then is APK, right? Mobile application, it will be APK. They will give the application detail and the list of requirement they have done, right? So these two things developer give to the tester, and they will ask them to start the testing. You got my point? So now tester start the testing, right? So over here, the testing process is started by testers. They start executing the test case, which is the test case they have created, right? Testing process. Now suppose if there is 100 requirement, right? If there is 100 points, right? 100 points, and they tested 100 points and they found 90s are fast, means 90s are working fine, but 10 having the error, means they are failed, right? They have something which is not matching up with the requirement, right? So this is what tester found, right? So at that time tester will raise the bug for this 10 error. Are you following, Ali?
Yeah, I'm following.
Yeah, so now tester raised the 10 bugs, right? So it will be get raised, right? It will be get raised by the tester. So over here what tester will do, right? They will raise the bug, right? So I will just say tester will raise the bug for failed cases, right? Failed test cases, right? So now once they will raise, right, once they will raise the 10 bugs, right, they will raise the 10 bugs. So they all bugs are under the open status or new status, right? As a new queue, so they are in the new status. So now this new status bug, right, can be accessed by the developer. See, this can be, now they will put under the new status, and this can be taken by the developer, right? So developer, what developer will do, the developer lead or the team lead or the project manager will take this bug, and it will assign to their team members, right? So it will get assigned to the team members, means team member will start working on that stuffs. So now over here it will become in progress. You got my point? So all the bug under the fixing, So they will become in progress. So once tester raise the bug, it will become new, right? Now it will get assigned to the developer and they will start working on that. Then it will become in progress. Now developer fix it. See, developer fix it. Developer work for 10 hours on that bugs and they finally fix it, right? So they finally fix it. So they fix the bug, right? They fix the bug. Now they again give that bug and the latest updated application, right? This is same thing. Now they give the same thing again to the tester, right? They will give the again same thing to the tester to retest. Now we cannot say testing, we can just use the word called retesting, right? So over here the retesting is again come to the tester, so they will retest the bug, right? They will say retest, right? You can also call fixed, or you can also sometimes call resolved, right? Resolved by developer, right?
Wait, so why did you move the application details URL from the top to the bottom of the space?
Because no, because see over here again they have 10 bugs, so they fix the bug, right? So now the
Uh-huh.
application files get updated. You got my point. The new code get changed, new application get
Oh,
developed,
okay.
right? There is some changes. So now they will give the application and not list of the requirement all. They will give the 10 bugs, right? The 10 bugs raised by the developer,
Oh, okay. Yeah, see,
right?
that's why I was like, why are they giving the requirements again? If
No, no,
you
no.
they already give the
So
requirement.
they will get the updated build and the 10 bugs, the tester to retest it, right? So now the tester is retesting. You got my point. So
Yeah.
once they will retest, it will be two things, right? Once they will retest, it will be two things. If everything is working fine, right? So they will mark it closed. They will mark it closed. You got my point. They will mark it closed, means everything is working fine. And if suppose something goes wrong again, something new issue they will found, then they will reopen it, right? They will reopen the bug. They will reopen from the result to reopen, right? And it will again go to the developer to fix, right? Again go developer to fix. Now again developer will fix, they will again send for retesting, they will test. If it is everything is fine, it is closed. Otherwise it will go reopen. So this cycle they will run till the time all the requirement get fixed. You got my point. They will continue this cycle till the all the requirement, like the all 100 requirement got completed fixed with as per the customer requirement, right? So this is the normal bug life cycle people follow in the IT industry. You got my point.
Yeah.
Okay, so you as a developer, they develop something, they give tester to test it. Now tester is testing, they will send their feedback to the developer. Okay, we have tested this much of these are the requirement we have tested and we found these bugs. So can you just go and resolve that bug before we go to the UAT or before we show to this client? So now developer will work on that bugs, they will fix those bugs, but after fixing they cannot directly host those bug, or they can say okay everything is fine. No, after fixing as well they have to give the tester again to go through it, right? To retest the application, right? So they will retest the application again. If they will found anything wrong with the bug, they will reopen the bug and give it to the back to the developer. If the tester found okay everything seems to be working as per the requirement, then they will close the bug, right? So this is how the defect life cycle or bug life cycle work, and this is how the and this is good. This is what Ali. This is what happening in the IT, right? This is what happening in the IT. Tester normally work with the developer on the testing like this way, right? This is very clear picture and how I used to work when I was doing the testing, right? So this is what you normally gonna do, right? When you do the testing, okay? Now
Yeah.
now the same thing we'll have in the detailed view over here, you see. So now you see the new bug. When you raise anything, that will become new. Once it is get is assigned to the developer, it is called assign, right? Now let's suppose you are a developer, I am a developer, I am your lead, right? So I assign you some task, but you have not started working on it. You got my point. So it is under the open status, right? So you are working on that, that means in progress or open status, right? Now the open status, it may be possible the duplicate, rejected or deferred, right? What is these terms, right? So duplicate means your bug is might be something related with another bug, right? So you have already fixed those bugs, so you can mark as duplicate, do not require to work on that things because it is already resolved in previous bug, right? Or sometimes the requirement goes change, right? So people says, okay, now no need to test that bug, that means you reject that bug, right? You are not going to test that bug, right? The deferred means you are not going to test that bug as of now, right? It is not prioritized, so you will test it later on or in the next release, right? So that is called deferred. You put that bug apart side and you are not doing the retesting on that bug, right? Because it is going to become in the next release, not in the same release. Okay. Now once this is fixed, the tester test, if it is found any issue, they will reopen it, right? And if then they again fix, then again test, if they will found again any issue, again reopen. So this cycle will continue till the time they will found everything is working fine. So everything is verified by the tester, then and then bug got closed, right? So this is the scenario, right? This is a scenario like how the bug life cycle work. You got my point?
Yeah.
Perfect. So bug life cycle is very much important for the tester to understand because this is how they're gonna work on the every bug they raised with the developer. Okay. Now the next topics that we're gonna discuss is requirement traceability matrix, right? So requirement traceability matrix is one of the important document that tester will use, right? And why they use the requirement traceability matrix? Because there are many advantage, right? You can identify the coverage, right? You can I, identify the coverage of the application, whatever the things you have tested, right? So you can identify how many test cases you have run on based on the requirement, right? So requirement traceability matrix is very much important. It is a part of tester because over here we are mapping with the requirement, right? We are mapping with the requirement to the test cases. Understand these things. We are mapping each and every requirement with the test cases. That's the reason requirement traceability matrix is very much important. It gives the confirmation that we have tested everything, that means 100% test coverage we can assure using the requirement traceability matrix. It highlights if any requirement missing from the testing, right? If we miss any requirement in the big application, we have 1,000 user stories, right? If we miss any of the user stories, it will give the highlights, okay, we have not tested these things, right? So this is how the requirement traceability matrix works. So as the core definition says, requirement traceability matrix is the document that maps and trace the user requirement with the test cases, right? It captures all the requirement proposed to the client requirement and traceability in the single document, right? So we can also give that document to the client as well, so they can also understand, okay, for this requirement, for this business requirement, they have done this much test cases, for this one they have done this much of test cases. You got my point? So let me give you the simple example. Okay. Okay. So it's a requirement traceability matrix. It's a RTM, right? Requirement requirement traceability matrix, right? Requirement traceability matrix. Requirement traceability matrix, right? RTM. Now, suppose the BA person, right? Business analyst person. Business analyst. So what business analyst person do? Ali, what business analyst person do?
Yeah. The business analyst uh, works with the project manager to make
Mm-hmm.
sure whatever the application is needed
Mm-hmm.
to fulfill a project. Like they go back and forth with the client
Mm-hmm.
to make sure all the requirements are met for the application before they hand it off to the development team.
Mm-hmm. You can also say in the simple term, right? In the simple term, I will just say business analyst, right? who analyze the business, right? Who analyze the requirement, who discuss the requirement, who prepare the requirement, right? So BA person mainly work in the requirement analysis. They work with the project manager, they work with the developer as well, they work with the QA people as well, they work with the customer as well, right? So they need to identify whatever the requirement is given by customer is clear to the team as well. It get double confirm, double make sure with the customer as well, right? Because see, sometimes customers also give the requirement which is not feasible to implement. You got my point? So suppose you are a customer, right, and you ask me, okay Ankit, I want to develop something XYZ kind of application, right? So as a BA person, I am a non-technical, right? So what I will do, okay, I understood your requirement. Let me talk to my technical team if this is achievable or not, right? If this is a feasible or not. So what they will do, they will technically discuss, okay, customer wants something like this way, right? Are we able to make it? What resource we required? What technology we required? And it is feasible or not? The main thing, right? Whatever customer says, it is feasible or not to develop. So all those things done by the BA people. And okay, and once it is says, yeah, we can, then it's confirmed to the customer as well, okay, we can able to do these things, and this is your requirement, SRS document. Can you just go through it once and give us a sign off so we can start developing the product? You got my point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the business analyst person, what he will do, he will create the document like SRS and BR, right? SRS means system requirement specification or software requirement specification, and BRD, business requirement documentation, right? Business requirement documentation and system requirement specification. This we already covered in the SDLC life cycle, right? So this is what they will normally develop, right? This is what they normally develop as a part of their job. Now we have tester, right? So what tester will develop? The tester will develop test cases, right? They will develop test cases, right? They will develop the test cases for the requirement. They both are working with the requirement. See, that is reason it is called requirement traceability matrix. They both work on the requirement. They have their own point of view for the requirement. Business analysts develop the requirement to make sure we prepare the right product for the customer, and the tester create the test cases for the requirement to make sure we test the requirement thoroughly, right? So over here what is happening, see, now they start their points. So this is requirement one, right? For what is first requirement? Create the proper login page. This is my simple first requirement, okay? And I give it requirement Rick, and I just says 001. Okay, this is my first requirement, right? And then my second requirement, it says 002, right? uh, Create the registration page. Means it will have the detailed things, but I'm just giving you the overall idea, okay? What should come under the registration page and everything, right? So this is my second requirement. Now my third requirement, create the customer, sorry, customer customer page, right? So this is my third requirement, right? So see, this is how the business person will define their requirement in 1 to 100 or 200 points, right? Requirement 001, requirement 002, requirement 003. So now that can be the functional requirement, that can be the non-functional requirement, everything will come over here, right? So this is the requirement we create. Now what tester will do, okay, tester says, okay, I want to create a test cases. So my test case is 001, and I want to test the login functionality, right? So I create a test case 001 to verify the login or valid login, right? Then I create a test case 002 again for the login functionality, but over here verify the invalid login, right? Then I create a test case 3 again for the login page. You see, verify the remember me text box on the login page, right? So this is what I created, three test cases for the first requirement. Then I have the fourth one for the registration, right? Verify the registration or valid registration, right? Then we have another things, verify with the invalid data, right? Verify with invalid data, right? Then we have another things, right? Verify for mandatory data, right? Then we have another for the registration, right? It says verify with missing data, right? Now for the customer, again for the customer I have 008, verify the customer registration with valid data, right? Again for the invalid data, verify with invalid data, right? Then we have 010, right? With the verify customer login once it is registered, right? So these are the things we have created, right? These are the things we have created: test case 1, test case 2, test case 3 for the requirement 1, right? Then test case 4, test case 5, test case 6, test case 7 for the requirement 2, which is about the registration, right? Then we have test case 8, test case 9, and test case 10 for the third requirement about the customer page, right? So now see, this is what normally the business analyst person and the tester do, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is what we have, right? Now see what is happening. Now I need to create the requirement document. See, I want to create the requirement document. So how my requirement documents look like, right? So I will create in the Excel. I will create in the Excel. This is how the requirement document looks like, right? So first of all, it has the requirement. Sorry, let me make it a bit big so you can see. It has the, why it is not typing? Okay, it has the requirement ID. Why the keyboard is not working on? Let me reopen it again. Okay, so the requirement ID, requirement type, requirement description, right? Description. Then we have test case ID, test case description, right? Then test case result, right? This is what we have. You got my point? This is called RT document. See, this is called RTM. This is called requirement traceability matrix. Now we will take the same one. So requirement 001, right? So I have requirement 001, right? I have the requirement 001. I am not writing the description and all those things. It pretty much easy to understand, right? 002 requirement 003. Okay, then it can be the business requirement, it can be the technical requirement. When we say business, that means functional requirement, right? It can be the technical or the non-functional requirement. This is just a type, right? This is how the requirement they will create, we no need to create by tester, right? Non-functional requirement, functional requirement, technical requirement. Now see, we have three requirement and the description will be same, but now we need to give the test cases, right? So test cases ID will be different, you see, because for one requirement we have three test cases. So what I will do to make it clear view, I will give like this way. So for first one I have created test cases 1, test cases 2, test cases 3, right? Then for second one I have created test cases 4, test cases 4, test cases 5, test cases 6, test cases 7, right? And then test cases 8, test cases 9, and test cases 10. This is for my third requirement, right? This is for my third requirement, right? So I can do it like this way, I can do it like this way. I will merge this column, I will merge this column, I will merge this column, right? And I will make it bit proper, so I will utilize these things. I will make it proper. I will merge this column. Just see how the requirement traceability matrix get created, right? This is how I normally create a requirement traceability matrix. Merge this column, merge this column, right? And merge this column, right? So now you see everything. I will just make it proper formatting so you can understand, right? So you see, for first requirement I have 3 test cases, and it is clearly defined, right? It is clearly defined, it is clearly defined. Now for the third requirement I have the another 3 test cases, and for the second requirement I have the 4 test cases, right? And the test cases description will be like this way: verify, login, and the requirement document description will be like this way: create proper login page and all those things, right? So this is how. Now see, you tell me, if we create the requirement document in such a way, right? So if we are missing something, right, if you are missing something, we can easily crack, we can easily track, right? Because this is mandatory for each and every requirement. We have to link some test cases. Suppose if for this requirement we miss the linking the test cases, that means this requirement is not tested by the tester. You got my point? Why? Because if you read the requirement traceability matrix, right, you can understand, okay, why I'm not getting the test cases for this requirement. That means tester has not created the test cases, that means it is not tested. You got my point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is called traceability matrix, right? This is how you can create a traceability matrix, right? And when you execute the test case, you can make it pass, failed, right, pass, and you submit this to the manager, you submit this to the customer as well, right? Mainly customer do not ask, but yeah, it's good to submit this to the customer as well, right? So how the requirement, each and every requirement is linked with the each and every test cases. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Now this is done, right? This is done, the requirement traceability. Now there are 3 types of requirement traceability matrix, 3 types of RTM requirement traceability matrix. The first one says forward requirement traceability, right? So this matrix used to whether the project progress and desired direction to make the right product. It make the each requirement apply to the product. That means you're gonna test, you're gonna track the matrix from requirement to the test cases, right? So over here that is called forward RTM, right? Means you check from the requirement to test cases, right? So first you take the requirement and then you check for the test cases, right? You just make sure like this way. That is called forward requirement traceability matrix. Now there is another says backward RTM, right? Over here you first check the test cases and then check for the requirement, right? Vice versa. Over here what you are doing, first you are checking, okay, first show me the requirement, then show me the test cases which are linked with this requirement, right? So this is how you do the forward. You first check the requirement and then ask for the test cases. But in the backward, what you do, you first check the test cases and then ask, okay, this is a test case, so which requirement is associated with this test case. So this is how you do the backward. And the third one is that bidirectional, and most of the company will have the bidirectional where requirement is gonna test with the test cases. So you can track from vice versa, right? You can either track from that way, you can either track from that way, right? You can either ask for the requirement document for the test cases or test cases for the requirement document, right? So they're gonna ask you what are the different types of RTM, right? And what is RTM and how you can create the RTM. So you should be aware, if you're working as a QA engineer for 1 year at least, right? You should be aware what is RTM and how we can work on that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So forward requirement traceability means requirement to test cases, backward that means test cases to requirement, and bidirectional means requirement to the test cases and test cases to the requirement. You can do either or, right? So this is what we have in our over here as well. Okay, over here as well the matrix, and you can just go through these readable stuffs. It will be make sense to you, it will be easy to understand as well, right? So just go through this one once. Let me just make the fill it proper so you can easily read. Okay, yeah, that makes sense now. Okay, and what is RTM, how you can create the RTM, right? This is how you can create the RTM. This is how the normal RTM look like, right? RTM document look like. So you have got the that practical example as well. And why we required? Because it gives the 100% coverage of the test case. If we are missing something, right, it is also highlight the missing stuffs as well, and that's the reason we use the RTM. Okay, does that make sense, Ali? Hello.
So the RTM is basically made at the end of the test case, right?
No, you can make it before the test case. You can make middle of the test case. This is not totally depends, right?
Yeah, but we can't pass it or fail it unless we make it and test it.
No, see, RTM is something not you pass or failed. It is just a document, right? You need
Or
to
it's
put
like basically the steps what we have to do.
exactly. So you can also do one
Um,
thing. You can also create this portion, right? Initially, and once you start creating the test case, then you start putting this portion as well, right? And
yeah,
once
and
you
then after that you put pass or fail
exactly,
because
once you
you put
yeah,
pass and fail right now, but that's at
exactly.
the end. That's when you test it.
Yeah, this column
Yeah,
only will
that's,
come when you test it. This column you can create at the beginning of the SDLC, this column you can create at the middle of the SDLC, and this column you will create once you finish your testing. You got my point?
yeah,
Yeah, so anytime you can create. This is not like we need to finish the testing to create this document. This document will have the inputs from different departments. This requirement will come from the business analyst team, this will come from the tester, and once the test gets executed you can put your result over here, right? Okay, now we got what is bug life cycle, what is requirement traceability matrix, right? So another topics I want to make you aware about the different types of environment we have in the software, right? Software development life cycle, I will just say SDLC, right? So different environments means different hosting server we have, right, for the software development life cycle, right? So let me just say, okay, no, sorry, yeah. So development environment, right? Test environment, staging environment, and production environment, right? So we have four things. So let me show you. This is also very much important as a point of they're not gonna ask you in the interview, right? What is development, what is staging? But they, if you know these things, then you are aware about the testing stuff, right? So suppose we have the application, right? We have the application which is developed by a developer, right? Which is developed by the developer, right? So now developer is developing this application means somewhere they are creating the codes, they are storing the files, and they are making sure the application is working as expected, right? So initial stage of the application can be available on the development server, right? On the development server, on the development server, initial requirement will be available on the developer, for the developer on the development server, right? On the development server, right? This is called a development server, or we can write down over here. So on the development server, all the developer stuffs will be over here, right? The developer codes, right? Everything will be over here, right? This is a initial code. You can also consider initial code of application, right? This can be the developer machine, developer laptop, right? Developer machine, or any server that given by the company, right? This can be the any developer machine or the server given by the company, right? So that is called the developer server. Okay, then once everything is done, right, when everything is done correctly on the development and developer says okay the requirement is working fine, then they will move their stuffs to the test environment, right? They will move that stuffs, all the code file and everything to the test environment. So that is called test server. Over here where the actual tester do the testing, right? This is environment. Environment is nothing, it's the kind of machines, right, where tester do the actual testing. They execute their test case, right? So over here they will do these steps. The test environment, test, you can also say test environment or you can just say test server, right? Test environment or you can also say test environment or server. So this can be the tester machine or any server given by the company, right? So you can also say it can be the tester machine or server given by the company, right? Or any specific machine given by the company, right? So this is called test. Now what is happening, test also done and tester says okay everything looks good to me, everything is working fine to me, right? So we can go and we can move forward, right? So now from over here where we are going, we are going on the staging area, staging server, staging environment, right? So why, again we are creating another variant, right? The staging environment, sorry, staging server or you can just say staging environment. So sometimes they will ask you in the interview okay, so how you do the testing, where you do the testing, so you can just say I used to do the testing on the testing server. We have the separate test environment where we can do the testing. So whenever developer finish their development, they upload their all the codes, they upload their all the codes over there, right? And we do the testing over there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now tester is also finished, this is everything is fine. Now the same code from development to the tester and testing to the staging will come. And suppose if the tester says okay something goes wrong, then developer need to fix it, right? Developer need to fix it. So the staging area, right over here, the staging area, we will do few steps like we do the UAT. You got my point? We do the UAT on the staging, UAT on staging. We do the beta testing or alpha testing, right, on staging, right? So we can do the UAT or alpha testing, beta testing on staging, right? So this kind of the little bit testing we do on the staging area and we make sure we have the complete replica of the test server and developer server over here. Now suppose we done the UAT and customer says yes everything looks good and everything looks perfect, right? So now you can put that code for our end user, make it global, make it available for the public, right? So at that time it goes to the production. This is what is the normal cycle most of the company follow. They cannot directly move code from the development to the production, right? So over here now the production environment, right? You can just say production server or environment, right? Production server or the environment, right? That will come over here. So what is happening, what you will do over here, you will host the code, you will host the code for the end user, right? Or actual customer, means customer's customer, right? It is now globally available, right? It is now globally available. You got my point? So this is how you follow the cycle. You cannot directly go from developer to test, right? This is no, this is not allowed. This is not allowed in the software development. We cannot take this risk, right? So I will just say this is not allowed. This is the proper way. So some small company will have these two things in the one side, right? So sometimes this is okay, we do not have the staging server, so we have the only test environment. So they will do the development, then go to the test or staging, then go to the production. but it should be like the cycle, the normal cycle should be followed like this way. You got my point? So whatever code we have on the production should not get, I will just say, disturbed by the staging code, or it should not get disturbed by the testing code, right? If we found any bug on testing environment, we can resolve in the testing environment itself, and once we found everything work fine on the testing, then we can move to the staging, and then we can move the production. Okay, this is how normally different environment available in the software development, right? They will ask you, these can be asked, okay, where you do the actual testing, what you do the actual testing, and all those things. Does that make sense, Ali? Hello?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And why you need to have this information, because this will show if you are aware about the test environment and all those things, right? Sometimes they were gonna ask you, okay, what is your testing process, what is your different environment involved in your project, right? So you should at least state the developer do the development on development server, and they do the development testing on development server. Once everything is fine, they host on the test server, and once tester do the testing and everything is fine, then it move to the staging area, staging environment. And once it is on the staging environment, we do the customer UAT and alpha testing, beta testing on staging environment. And once the customer says, okay, everything looks good to us, we can publish this code on the production, right? Then it will go to the production. Okay, so these are the different applications, right? These are the different applications environment we have under the application development, right? So now over here, who gonna work? Over here, developer gonna work, right? On the development server. On the test server, the tester gonna work. On the staging server, project manager or the BA person gonna work, or BA, business analyst person gonna work. And on the production server, cloud engineer gonna work. Does that make sense? Right? Over here, the test environment, tester gonna work, right? Over here, the cloud engineer, and over here, project manager and the BA person. And over here, we can just say cloud engineer, right? Oh, sorry, cloud engineer means who actually hosts the application on the server, right? So this is how the different person in the SDLC work on the different environment to perform their task, day-to-day task, right? Does that make sense, Ali? So
Yeah,
So
it
what
makes
is,
sense.
yeah, what is bug and defects, right? What is the defect life cycle? So see, to whatever we learn today, right? It's bit of practical things. What actually tester do in their role, right? They raise the bug and how the bug is gonna tackle between tester and developer, right? What is called the duplicate, rejected, deferred, and all those things, right? Then the requirement traceability matrix document, right? How we can create the requirement traceability matrix, why it is important, what is the different types of requirement traceability matrix, right? Then we talk about the different environment, right? So I will just say let's keep these things as of now, right? And we will go, because I think almost the manual concept that you should be aware, right? You should be aware as a part of tester are completed, right? So I will also think more on those stuffs. If I found anything else I need to cover, right, I will go and teach you on those stuffs. But as of now, all the manual stuffs has been covered, right? We have done the 10 sessions so far. So all in 10 sessions we have covered almost everything, right? So what you
Yeah,
need to do, what you need to do as a part of today's assignment, just go and write the two-line description for each and every stage: new, assign, open, fix, duplicate, defer. You can just go and Google and write at least one line or two line for, write one or two line for each stage of defect life cycle, right? Then uh, create the RTM for 10 requirement and 13 test cases. Anything, you can take anyone, Amazon, anyone, right? Then described in your word, right? Describe the different test, or sorry, different environments available in SDLC. So over here you need to write one paragraph for me, right? How the cycle is going to work, who going to work on what steps and all those things. So this is the three things you need to do as part of today's assignment, right? And I will also now, because whatever from now we gonna learn it, we gonna learn about the automation tools available in the market, right? And how you can explain the automation tools, what they can actually do as a part of their automation tools, what is the basic about the automation. We will discuss in the next session those stuffs. Okay, but as of now, Ali, I will do one thing. I will also make this document available to you guys, right? So you can go through each and every topics, right? You can revise your stuffs, you can revise yourself again, right? But I want whatever the time you have from between next session, right? Just go through each and every sessions once again, and I am damn sure each and every session makes sense to you once you go forward. Okay, why this is application, what is the different domains, everything will make sense, right? What is the role of the different person and everything. Because I want to take mock call, I will take one short kind of interview for you on the this 10 session we have done, right? I want to evaluate your knowledge, your grasping power, then and then we can move forward. So that's the reason I will make this document available for you. Just go through it and just let me know. You got my point? So in
Yeah.
the next session, it will not going to be teaching session, it's going to be interview session. So just make sure I will ask you all the questions, and I will evaluate you based on that, if we need to go to the next training session or not, or we need to revise few topics from the same session. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. So I will make this available, this document. I will change it little bit and I will make it available for you, right? And for the other people as well. So they can just go through this recording and they can also complete this assignment, right? And in the next session, I think on the next Wednesday or Thursday night, right? Whenever we meet, it is not going to be a training session, it's going to be an interview session. So just prepare yourself with the as much as examples you can gather, right? Because we have done the enough training on the manual concept. With the example, you also have done the assignment based on each and every session. So now you should be clear what to answer when anybody asks any questions. Okay.
I got it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So take care, Ali. I think it's already 2 a.m. over there, right? So
Yeah.